Joker isn't terrifying because he's insane. He's terrifying because he might be right about human nature. He's sitting on a city bus, clown makeup half on, a little kid making faces at him. Arthur smiles back, quiet, tired, grateful. Then the mother yanks her kid away.
Can you please stop bothering my kid?
I wasn't bothering.
Just stop.
No words, just pulls him closer, like Arthur is something to be protected from. Think about that for a second. Because the film doesn't open with a murder. It doesn't open with a threat. It opens with a man trying to make a child laugh. Look at what he writes in his journal that night. The worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't. Not darkness, rejection. We call him a villain, but what if he's something far more uncomfortable? A mirror. Because Joker doesn't teach us about one broken man. It teaches us what human beings do to each other when no one is watching. And that lesson is harder to sit with than anything Arthur Fleck ever did. To really understand the Joker, we need to go inside the fiction. Arthur Fleck isn't born dangerous. He's born invisible. He works a dead-end job in a city that treats its poor like background noise. He takes care of his sick mother in a crumbling apartment. He goes to therapy once a week, where a social worker barely looks up from her clipboard. He carries a card in his pocket that explains his condition, a neurological disorder that makes him laugh uncontrollably at the worst possible moments. Because without it, people assume the worst. And with it, they still do. Then the subway scene. 3 men beating him while he's down, laughing while they do it. Nobody intervenes. The train keeps moving. The city keeps moving. When he finally fights back, when the gun goes off, the camera doesn't play it for triumph or horror. It plays it for truth. Something shifted. Not in him, in the equation. That's the first thing Joker teaches us about human nature. Cruelty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a city that cuts mental health funding, a coworker who sets you up and blames you for it, a talk show host who makes you the punchline of a national joke and calls it comedy. Slow cruelty. Institutional cruelty. The kind that never has to answer for itself because it never leaves a mark you can photograph. Here's the read most people take on Arthur. He snapped. Unstable man, tragic circumstances, inevitable outcome. It's a clean story. It makes him the variable. The city, the system, the people around him, they're just the setting. He's the problem. But the film doesn't let you keep that read if you're paying attention. Thomas Wayne goes on television and calls the men Arthur killed clowns, dismisses an entire class of people in one sentence from the comfort of his wealth. And Gotham's forgotten population, the ones eating out of garbage cans, the ones watching that interview on a flickering TV in a diner, they don't hear a grieving man. They hear what they've always heard. You don't matter. The riots that follow aren't chaos. They're an answer. That's the second thing Joker teaches us. Systems don't break people alone. People break people. And the ones doing the breaking rarely see themselves as part of the story. Thomas Wayne isn't a villain in his own mind. The social worker isn't negligent in her own mind. The 3 men on the subway probably told themselves they were just having fun. None of them connected their small, daily dismissals to what was building in the man they dismissed. We never do. There's a crazy scene late in the film where Arthur is finally on the Murray Franklin show, the same talk show he used to watch every night with his mother. Murray, played by Robert De Niro, brings him out expecting a freak, expecting ratings. And Arthur, now fully become the Joker, looks at him and says,
You just wanted to make fun of me. You're just like the rest of them.
Murray tries to laugh it off. The audience shifts, and Arthur keeps going.
What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross
I think
a
we're
mentally
done
ill
with you,
loner
George. That's
with a
it.
society that abandons him and treats him like
Call
trash.
the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you get.
Call the police.
You get what you fucking deserve.
And boom, he shoots Murray straight in the head. We're supposed to be horrified, and we are. But underneath the horror is something that makes us uncomfortable precisely because it's not entirely wrong. Not the violence, never the violence, but the diagnosis. The part where he names what happened. The part where he refuses to be the only one who has to account for anything. That discomfort is the whole point of the film. We've all seen Arthur Fleck. Maybe not in the extreme. Maybe just in the version of him that exists in every office, every school, every family. The one everyone writes off as weird, difficult, too much. The one who stops getting invited because they make things awkward. The one who asks for help one too many times and gets labeled as needy. We don't think of ourselves as the ones ignoring them. We're just busy, just tired, just drawing healthy boundaries. But boundaries and abandonment can look identical from the outside of them. The film asks us to hold two things at once. Arthur is responsible for what he chose, and the world he lived in manufactured the conditions for that choice. Both are true. The tragedy isn't that one cancels out the other. The tragedy is that we only want to hold one at a time, whichever one keeps us most comfortable. When he's fully become Joker, standing on the hood of a car while Gotham burns around him, he's not celebrating destruction. He's experiencing the first moment in his entire life where he feels like something real, where he takes up space without apologizing for it. And that, not the violence, not the chaos, that is the most devastating thing the film shows us. That it took all of that for one person to feel seen. I've sat with this film longer than I expected to, because I recognize that specific exhaustion of performing okayness in front of people who wouldn't know what to do with the real version of you, of laughing at the wrong moment and watching people back away, of needing less and less from people until you're not sure what you're still doing in the room. Arthur writes in his journal, "I hope my death makes more sense than my life." And though you might think this is wordplay, he misspells sense as sense. And that detail, that small, heartbreaking detail, tells you everything. This is not a man plotting. This is a man who has been worn so thin that even his own words slip. And nobody noticed. Nobody was looking at the journal. Nobody was looking at Arthur. Joker doesn't give you a solution. It's not built to. What it gives you is a question you can't unask. How many people in your life are you not looking at? Not the dramatic ones. Not the ones who announce their pain loudly enough that you have to respond. The quiet ones. The ones who laugh at the wrong time. The ones who seem fine because they've learned that seeming fine is the only version of themselves the world has patience for. The film ends with Arthur in a psychiatric facility, having outlasted everything. The city, the violence, the story. He laughs. A real laugh this time, to himself, about something we don't get to hear. And then he runs, leaving bloody footprints behind him. We never find out what was funny. Maybe that's the point. Some things break in places no one ever gets to see, and by the time you notice the footprints, the person has already been running for a long time. You still have time to look. Not at the spectacle, at the person next to you who's been quiet a little too long. The one who jokes about the wrong things. The one who stopped asking for things because asking didn't work. Joker shows us the end of that road. You get to decide whether anyone you know reaches it. That's what this film actually teaches us about human nature. Not that monsters are made, that we make them, and that most of the time, we don't even notice we're doing it.